All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Guys, even as your coaches, your running coaches, your S&C coaches, even with us prescribing you the best program and with everything that we're preaching as your coaches, we are still going to be prone to injury at times. It's one of the I don't know if it's a misconception or it's a myth. If you follow the best program possible for you, like you have the best team around you, that's dialing in on every single metric, considering every single variable of your life. Injury happen. Okay, injuries happen in all shapes and sizes, and it's a really important topic to talk about because no matter how experienced you are, like I know how many events and races and training kind of phases of training you've gone through year after year, understanding that injuries are just part of the narrative, part of the conversation, is important, because I think a lot of people can become very quickly derailed by this mentally. We've seen it quite recently with individuals who are well experienced pick up these random injuries along the way, and it's your ability to pivot in the moment. And this is what I want to talk to you guys about today: is what does it take? What do we need to be considering to be able to understand how we can pivot emotionally, physiologically in these moments, so that we don't catastrophize, we don't have these meltdowns, because we're never going to be able to eradicate injury completely. There's just simply too many variables in life, with the busy, active lifestyles that we live, and there's always there's potential of these uncontrollable variables, these acute moments of accidents that happen that come out of the blue, and you can't believe it. They've happened, but they do happen, and there's multiple different examples of this. But when you follow a comprehensive training approach, when you are considering all the variables, when you do have a team around you, when you do have strong systems that you're and good, consistent behaviors in place, you're going to be reducing the likelihood of these injuries. You're going to be putting yourself in a place where you can quantify and calculate the potential kind of possibilities of injuries coming up and preventing them from happening. And it's those people that are kind of investing in themselves, who are seeking out this level of education, who are wanting to further understand themselves, the things that they're doing well, the things that they're not doing well. This is their ability, it's their ability to think more logically, to understand these situations. These are the ones that are, who are lucky almost. From the outside looking in, these are the ones that are seemingly able to kind of roll through injuries that potentially a lot of other people would be derailed by. There's a lot of people out there, this narrative where people are just trying to push through discomfort and pain, and it just sets them further and further back. They may get away with it in the short term, but they're creating these huge deficits where they are then going to put themselves into these long kind of recovery phases where these tendinopathies aren't going anywhere fast. A stress response turns it, or an area of wear and tear becomes a stress response, then becomes a stress fracture, and people are on the sidelines for months, if not years, before they get back, trying to get back to those peaks of performance. And guys, this mindset, this understanding around this comprehensive approach, what are the biggest benefits? Understanding that if something does happen, these niggles do occur, it's your ability to pivot in the moment so that no further damage is done. To understand, like, in those moments, what actual work then needs to be done instead of. How are you going to pivot within your training? How do you need to adjust your perspective mentally towards your training? You are well set on your way with the program. You're ticking all the boxes, and then suddenly, bang, something comes out of nowhere: a knee pain, lower back pain, a hamstring, a calf issue, whatever it is. How are you going to tolerate and manage those moments? And it's working with it's having those strong sounding boards around you, but it's understanding, what does your body need to work on? What's caused it? Was there an obvious reason for it? Then the logical approach beyond this, and then imagine, and then being able to then kind of work consistently through this issue and back out the other side and then back into that full-time training. These are the steps that we want everyone that we work with at SFE to have. And this is what I want to install in you, for those of you listening to today's episode. So this has happened numerous times in the last couple of weeks for us, where we've had individuals working through a big training block. They're coming to that kind of those penultimate weeks of building towards those key events, and we've had some reoccurring knee issues, knee niggles. We've had individuals who are they've been sailing along, no problems, and then these things have come out, and we're trying to work out what they are, what's the reason behind them. And actually, a lot of the time, there has been no acute moment. There's been no significant moment. It's been an accumulation of potential just training load. Like when you string together 16, 20 weeks of training and more, there's a wear and tear that is very hard to quantify. But what we don't do is ignore it. We come together as a team and we work out where do we need to potentially deload. We need to make adjustments to that, to the volume, the intensity of that running program. Do we go into the S&C work that they're doing, which is constant all year round, and we go, right, where can we start to tailor this a little bit more? We need to deload here. We need to reduce the complexity of these sort of movements, and let's put a little bit more emphasis on developing more hamstring activation so we can take and stabilize the knee a bit more. We want to be able to have this ability to be able to pivot. A lot of people don't have this in place, and this is where things start to really catastrophize. They start to kind of spiral downwards because you're not thinking like this. But this is happening week in, week out. Like we have people who are training towards ultra events, triathlons, running events of all different distances. But we're working with people. We're working with very busy people who are tracking towards certain goals, certain events, and they're accumulating a lot of work on their body. And for us to be able to pivot logically in these moments, and for this behavior to be autonomous for these individuals, this is one of the most important things you can be thinking about. So something happens. You picked up a reoccurring injury, a niggle. There's something that has just come out of left wing from you. Like you're not sure why it's happened. Maybe you do. Maybe there was a moment you rolled your ankle. Maybe there's a moment where you pushed too hard in an interval effort and you've pulled a hamstring. Whatever that is, in that moment, your ability to reframe that situation. It's happened. Now what? Well, first and foremost, we want to prevent any further damage. We've got to have the maturity, the logical kind of mindset to be able to call yourself out and say, hey, I need to adjust the volume and intensity. Do I need to pull the pin on this particular session? Do I need to get someone to come and pick me up? Either way, that maturity to not just push through. In a race, in an event, there may be a different kind of line of thought going on. But when it comes to training, we want to get on top of this as quickly as possible. So preventing further damage from happening, being around in a group environment, having that ability to be able to call yourself out, that's hugely, hugely powerful. And actually, these are one of the behaviors that we really have to we want to coax out of people, because people aren't used to doing that. If you're used to training in high performance environments, up at the track, in the gym, in the water, on the bike, it can be very hard to kind of stay in your own lane and actually say, do you know what? I need to back off here. I can feel my body is struggling here. But so that, first and foremost, is one of the most important qualities that we're looking for when we're trying to install into everyone we're working with when it comes to preventing injury, is this self-belief, this self-confidence to know what you need to be doing for yourself. Is such an important quality that can kind of it's not nurtured enough. But it has to be, because we're all our own worst enemy. Because sometimes we've got a session laid out in front of us on the spreadsheet, on Training Peaks, whatever, and we feel like we have to get it completed. It's not the case. Like you're working from a program that is taking you on surface level. It's not actually understanding you in that moment, and that's why it's so important to be nurturing these qualities within a coaching program, because you're trying to develop yourself as a person along the way. You're learning more about how your mind handles all this training load. It's not just about how your body is handling all this work. It's how your mind, how your perceptions around yourself, how you're managing your emotional state. Hugely powerful. So understanding how to prevent further damage, hugely important. Next up, it's got to be kind of working out what's going on. What are we working with? Having a team around you, we're an S&C team, we're a physio team, we're a run coaching team. Well, we all work together as a team that covers these different bases, so we can act as quickly as possible on that said issue. What is it? What is it not? Do we need further analysis? Do we need to kind of reach outside for further consultation and X-ray, MRI, or just a face-to-face physio where they're going to get hands on you and just test you a little bit more? Whatever it needs to be, can we get that done as soon as possible? Understand what it is and what it isn't. Because once we know that, then we can make a real clear plan of action towards the next number of weeks within your training. All right, because again, injuries are part and parcel of being a highly active individual. And the most consistent individuals out there aren't the ones that are, always remain injury-free. They are the ones that are actually able to pivot and behave logically through these moments. Everyone gets injured. It's just at the extent of that injury. how that individual will then move and traverse through that injury and come out the other end as quickly as possible and get back into full-time training or into active lifestyle as quick as possible. They're the ones that are kind of, they're the qualities that we're looking for. What has caused it? That's an important conversation to be having from a physio standpoint, what we're dealing with, but then from a training perspective, were there compensations happening within your run mechanics? Were there compensations that we're starting to notice within your S&C work? Can we then immediately look to get on top of those? We're not just taking it as a momentary thing. Actually, is this something that could rear its ugly head again? Again, reasons why a lot of people get stuck in injuries because they don't unpack that situation. We do. We want to. We want to eradicate that potential of it happening again because maybe we haven't focused enough on certain areas of your body. That's where we can go back into the programming. So understanding what caused it, what the kind of biomechanical issues off the back of it, hugely, hugely important. Because once from there, we can then go back into your S&C work, go back into your run program design and start to build that out through more interval-based training, through us focusing more on your run mechanics towards those end efforts, those like the latter stages of your run sessions, or going deeper into your S&C work, bringing in a bit more rehab work, bringing in a little bit more kind of dialing in on some of those areas of weakness. But we want to understand that. And then the approach beyond this, what is the action plan? What is the plan that we're going to take over the next week, 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks away? You're coming up on an event. You're starting to worry. You're starting to think, how am I going to, get back to the volume that I need to be training to? Or how am I going to get my body up to get to the start line? Managing your mindset, by developing a plan, an action plan that's going to initially rehab that injury in those next couple of weeks, deloading you across the board in those certain areas, getting you focusing on those key other areas of your training, potentially making sure that you're staying on point with all those other areas and you're not completely falling to pieces everywhere else. A lot of people who suddenly pick up an injury their nutrition can fall to the wayside, their recovery falls to the wayside. All those good behaviors all start to become affected because of this simple setback. So making sure that you've got that accountability in place to make sure that everything else stays on point whilst you manage this said problem. That is a huge, important piece with managing injury. And then, obviously, guys, having that accountability to work through this, the week on week, work through this, interacting, having that level of feedback, that accountability, talking about, okay, yeah, body's starting to respond, no problem, feeling like I've got more to give here, or still struggling, not sure why, do we need to address this? Do we need to spend more time working on it? But it's that adaptability, that week on week, day to day, which is what we're doing here at SFE, where we're looking to get on top of an injury quickly because we have that level of that connection. Day to day adjustments to your run programming, to your return, building up that volume again, or going to your S&C and just making sure that we're tweaking things there, and bringing in whatever different variations. But that is where a lot of the gold can come from. This, guys, is the ability that we want you to have. This is the ability that we want. These are the abilities that we want everyone that we work with at SFE to have. This level of maturity, this logical approach to gain this level of experience within themselves, to know what these steps are, because we want this to be autonomous behavior. We want people to be making better decisions in the moment so that we can then get that person back. We can work them through these steps and stages and get them back to training as quickly as possible. Said injury is happening or has happened. There's a setback, but it's going to be minimal, or we want to minimize that setback as much as possible. We want to start to build confidence within hours after it happening, or us just talking about it. Where can we start to build momentum and confidence again after these moments? Because again, it's very easy to spiral backwards off the back of these types of moments. This is the ability, guys, that you can install, and this is what you should be getting from a program. This is what we talk about on a daily, weekly basis at SFE, because this is the reality of following a training program that is not often highlighted enough. That there's the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride of emotions, when you're training your physiology, you're pushing your body to these new levels. You're going to have to learn how to manage your emotions, your physiology, learn how to pivot like this. And this is what we want for you all the time, guys. So this is something that we can help you with. Guys, don't even hesitate. Reach out, let us know how we can help. But definitely take away these steps and start working on them, and it will go a long way. All right, guys, speak soon.